Rise and love, family. It is I, xandyourface.com, here at a secret location. I'm joking. xandyourface.com. So spell it out. Let me spell it one more time. xindyafaceDotcom. You spell the whole thing out. Rise and love, family. It is I, xandyourface.com, here at Chemeketa Community College in Salem, Oregon. Why am I here? Well, I'm here to do a little bit of self-reflection, and this campus was on the way to the store. And so I was like, hey, let me pull up. Let me see if I can walk around this little campus and see if there's a location that might work for me to do a little bit of self-reflection. I think the spot's pretty nice. Why am I doing self-reflection right now? Why am I doing it in this way, in this manner? Well, it's kind of a routine by this point, right? It's kind of how I get down. What led me to be here today, right now, having this interaction or this reflection is conflict at home with my wife. And it's a difficult, I think anytime you talk about conflict, it can be difficult to figure out how to navigate it, right? It's anything that's going on between two or more people, trying to dissect it, trying to break it down, trying to figure out what is needed for the group, for the whole, and what each individual needs to do can be tricky, because at the end of the day, I can only control myself. I can only control how I show up and try to be better about how I'm showing up and be a better listener, be more effective communicator, things of that sort. So I say all that to say, I'm having trouble because there's conflict, and I believe I'm showing up in this way that's authentic, that's showing up in a way that's open for communication, right? Open to listen and understand. And also showing up in a way where I am trying to work to get understanding, right? This is something I'll share, right? This is something I can share. I'm always a little dicey about, oh, do I share this specific thing about my wife or not, or whatever. I think I can share this without getting into trouble. My wife and I have different communication styles and conflict styles as well. But something that's different about us that comes up in conflict is how I am more like, let me paint a whole picture. Let me set up this thing, and then let me give you the evidence or the imagery around it. Let me give you all this context that helps you to understand the picture that I'm painting. And that is a way that I feel like I can communicate effectively, right? That helps somebody to get something that I'm trying to get across to them, right? My wife is kind of a black and white, right? That if something comes up, if I have an issue with something, it has to be a clear, you did this wrong, right? Or, and it has to be clear from my explanation of you did this wrong, or I'm hurt because. It has to be clear enough and simplified enough so that she can then decide what to do with that information, right? And it gets tricky because I also like to receive information in that way, right? Me receiving understanding from somebody else, I need to have at least some concept that they get the picture about what's going on, as opposed to I can share all these things with you and then you say, okay, right? To me, that doesn't demonstrate your understanding of something that I've said to you or something that I've shared with you. So yeah, we're in one of those situations where that's happening, and I'm trying to figure out how to meet in the middle. Like, how do we compromise on something like that? How do we engage with understanding in a way where folks who have different ways of understanding can still get to it, right? I'm not sure I necessarily know what the answer is. I think willingness to compromise, a willingness and an investment and an engagement and focus on like resolution, right? A resolution or a focus and engagement and investment towards understanding, right? Recognizing, hey, this is different for the two of us, and saying, hey, it doesn't exactly have to come out the way that I am accustomed to, because I know that the other person does not deliver it and does not process, doesn't do it the same way that I do it. And vice versa. I think it also has to be like, oh, okay, well, there's got to be some give and take. Like I can't say I need it this way and anything that doesn't fit inside this box is unacceptable. But I would also hope that it's like, okay, well, here's another thing that I can control. Can I deliver it in a way that is more in the way that is going to help this person to understand, and less the way that I would want it delivered to me? Like, can I deliver it in a way that is authentic, that is complete, and also is delivered in a way that's helpful for this person to understand, right? So that's what I can do. But I also have to have from the other point of view, right? If my wife is trying to say something to me, communicate something to me in this very black and white kind of way, if it doesn't have all that degree of complexity or additional context that's helping me, trying to find a way to understand still, right? Or finding where the compromise might be. Like I have to move closer to where she's communicating from and how she communicates in order to get the understanding that we need, right? And vice versa. So I think some of the clash, some of the difficulty comes from an unwillingness to move towards the other person's ways of communicating, the other person's ways of navigating. Now, there's certain stuff that happens within my marriage and in our communication and conflict that it's like, these aren't good things. So, you know, like if say for instance, if, I'm not saying that this is what happens, but say for instance, if one of us is like name calling, if we get off track by name calling, it doesn't help if the other person then engages in this not helpful process of name calling, right? That's going to take us completely off the rails, right? So it has to be an engagement and investment and a focus on doing things that are actually going to help us to get towards understanding, help us to get towards resolution, rather than things that are going to take us off track. And we have to both have a level of agreement about what things constitute helpful and what things constitute unhelpful, productive, unproductive, not necessarily good versus bad, but right, like name calling has got to be one of those things where that's not helping, right? A certain amount of redirection, right? A certain amount of redirection can be helpful, right? In having a two-person or more than two-person conversation, there's redirections that are going to happen, but we can't redirect and not loop back to where we started from. We can't redirect and then ignore everything that came before. We can't redirect and get off track and go and only communicate in this very tangential type of way. You know what I'm saying? So I think, right, as I'm talking about it out loud, the tactic is, hey, let's get back, let's check our ground rules, because we do have ground rules, right? Things that we established and said, hey, these are ways that we want to try to approach each other in general, right? Like, hey, like not necessarily like you can't do the other thing, but if we find that we're falling outside of that, that's one of the ways that we can get ourselves back on track. Or if we're having trouble, it's a good way for us to look and say, where's our foundation at, right? So I think the helpful thing right now is, okay, as I think about going back to it, I need to go back to where those foundations are to be able to say, hey, are we meeting that need or not, right? Are we checking our boxes like we should be? And if we're not, then what things do we need to do in order to get back on track, right? Checking the ground rules, saying, oh, hey, we weren't doing this, we weren't doing that. Let's see if we could put this back in place. Let's get back into practice, if that makes sense. What things are we doing that are harmful? Oh, well, it says right here we shouldn't be doing this and this and this. Here's some of the tools that we have and that we know of that can help us to navigate when we get into this kind of situation, or when these types of issues start coming up, right? Or these type of practices, reactions, reactivity, and things that or actions and behaviors start popping up. So yeah, I think that's a good guide. And yeah, I think that would be a good spot for me to go back to, because at the end of the day, I want to resolve conflict with my wife. I don't want to continue being in conflict with my wife. I don't want it to just, the weekend just started. I don't want it to be a whole weekend kind of thing. I don't want to be, disconnected and disengaged with my wife and to a certain degree with my family because of this stuff, or for that stuff to then negatively impact our ability to spend time with each other, have fun, love on each other, all that sort of stuff as a married couple and as a family. So yeah, I sometimes take these moments to do some self-reflection in a way that's gonna help me to navigate what steps I need to take in order to move forward, in order to make progress. And again, as I've said in previous videos, previous recordings, the goal here is not for me to be telling you something that's like, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. I am not a therapist. I am not a counselor. I have experience doing counseling type things in my mentorship, in coaching and facilitating people's development, in the work that I've done in different jobs and different professions. I also have my small business, right? Whole Lot of Enterprises, LLC, where I do, coaching individually, group coaching, where I do facilitation and workshops where I talk about communication, conflict resolution, things of that sort. But I'm using the knowledge that I've gained, the experiences that I've gained over the course of my life, and the tools that I've picked up on the way that I feel like I can help others to, gain greater ability and to work on their skills, right? So take my examples, my story with a grain of salt. You might have some connection to it or not, right? But maybe listen to it and recognize, oh, okay, well, this is something, some of these things I resonate with. Some of these things seem more salient to me, and some don't. So hopefully it's something that you can take and maybe have some positive experience with, or just listen to me and engage with me and my story, right? And what I got going on over here. And of course, I appreciate any support that folks have to offer. So with that said, I'm gonna cut this one off so that I can keep going, get to doing the stuff that I need to do, take care of stuff that I got going on, and I can get back to my family, right? And hit play again on the weekend. So wish me luck. And until next time, please check out what I got going on over at wholelotofenterprises.com or xinyourface.com. Both domains go to the same website. It's got lots of information about the different projects that I'm into, the different services that my business provides, and the different projects that I'm working on. So please check it out, and you can find me at xinyourface.com, xinyafaceDotcom. On all major social media platforms. So yeah, until next time, sa. Peace.